Morning. My name is Nick Spates. I'm Senior Director with SSO Gen, and with me also today is Raj Moretti, our CTO. We are excited to have all of you join us today and are confident that our SSO message will be meaningful, meaty. My name is Nick Spates. I'm Senior and actionable. Before we start, let me give you a little bit of context about SSO Gen. We provide SSO solutions to ERP customers who are looking for sole company or gateway SSO integration solutions. Our CEO worked with Oracle and other large enterprise users in the SSO space for over 20 years and saw a need to provide a next-gen SSO solution to serve enterprise customers using Oracle EBS, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, SAP, and other large cloud applications. His goal was to create a seamless SSO integration that was robust, affordable, and easy to install. SSO Gen solutions are highly scalable. We work with large, medium, and small companies in solving their individual SSO requirements. Our agenda today will cover a number of varied items. We'd like to start out with what is SSO, why SSO for EBS, how does SSO work with EBS. We'll look at some traditional SSO solutions, some modern SSO solutions. We'll have some live SSO integrations. We'll talk about EBS access case tips and tune-ups. We'll solve SSO runtime issues that you may be experiencing. And we'll have some use case demos, and we'll follow that up with a Q&A session. I ask you to think about the SSO landscape today. It has been changing rapidly. We see that new SSO integrations for Oracle EBS are available now, and cyber attacks are reported with more frequency than ever before and are creating catastrophic problems in their wake. Another trend we see is that customers today more than ever demand next-gen SSO technologies. They want improved SSO cost benefits. They want a better user experience, and they require robust compliance capabilities to support audit requirements for SSO. We also see next-gen SSO solutions being built now with new technologies that remove all the failure points and greatly simplify SSO integrations. Our purpose today is to have a dialogue with you with the intent of giving you a better understanding of SSO and next-gen SSO solutions today and how they can easily be adapted to your individual use case requirements. And finally, we want to give you the chance to explore on your own some exciting next-gen SSO options that Raj will tell you about. What is single sign-on? The evolution of single sign-on over the last 20 years has been very dynamic since the start of Active Directory in 1999. Still, SSO continues to evolve into what it is today. Simply stated, single sign-on is an authentication process that allows users to log in once and access multiple applications. In utilizing SSO, users don't have to remember dozens of passwords. They don't have to log in multiple times. Weak passwords and applications are not allowed. Password reset calls to help desks are greatly reduced. Access to multiple applications is terminated instantly. And we see that passwords alone are not secure enough these days. What is the cost of not having SSO? We hear and read daily about cyber attacks that are crippling companies today, and industry experts say that things are going to get worse. Some of the banner headlines include the Equifax breach cost the company over $4 billion. The most expensive component of a cyber attack, we learn, is information loss, which represents 43% of costs. Damage related to cybercrime is projected to hit $6 trillion annually by 2021. And by 2020, the estimated number of passwords used by humans and machines worldwide will grow to 300 billion. 65% of companies have over 500 users who are never prompted to change their passwords. 61% of breach victims in 2017 were businesses with under 1,000 employees. And by 2020, we expect IT analysts covering cybersecurity will be predicting 5-year spending forecasts to 2025 and well over $1 trillion. So why is SSO so important for EBS? SSO's rise coincides with other notable and interrelatable trends, including the rise of the public cloud, password fatigue, new developer methodologies, enterprise mobility, and web and cloud native applications. We see in our case today that EBS is the most critical enterprise application that stores a ton of sensitive business data. IT security audits such as SOX and HIPAA demand SSO security. Welcome 123 and Oracle 123 are the most popular passwords in EBS. Can you imagine that? Through SSO, EBS access is terminated instantly when an employee or contractor leaves the company. This is to ensure enterprise security. Passwords alone are not secure enough today for critical apps. SSO is a heightened layer of security. SSO enforces users to change SSO passwords periodically. This is recommended to help thwart cyber attacks. Users don't have to log in multiple times. This is a big productivity booster for companies. Also, users don't have to remember EBS passwords. This can be a challenge when trying to juggle dozens of passwords. And users don't have to remember application URLs with SSO Portal. This is another productivity booster and makes user lives much easier. And finally, EBS password reset calls to the help desk are greatly reduced.
All right, so I'd like to quickly talk about the SSO integration for EBS. So EBS has got 2 components for SSO. One is a SSO agent / SSO client, which is typically run on OHS. And then there's another component called Access Gate, which is an extension of EBS to support SSO functionality. EBS out of the box doesn't support the newer SSO solutions. Out of the box, EBS does support Oracle OSSO 10G kind of solution, but for newer solutions, there's a new component called Access Gate, which is typically run on WebLogic. And since 12.1 and 11i doesn't have WebLogic, it's going to be running on a separate WebLogic. In 11i and R12, when it comes to 12.2, it's out of the box because you got a WebLogic already in EBS stack, and it's a lot simpler to implement SSO in 12.2 because you don't have to run other installations such as OHS and WebLogic and deploy the access gate. So the access gate is the one which reads the SSO responses. The responses could be the session cookies, the responses could be the header variables, the header tokens, and also some of the signatures coming from SSO. And then it talks to the EBS database and creates two sessions, FND session as well as ICX session in the EBS database. It does talk to the EBS database directly. Once the sessions are created, the user is sent back to EBS homepage, and EBS is going to be acknowledging the sessions that you already have in the browser. That completes the whole login process. In simple language, there are two big components for SSO. One is the OHS component, which is the SSO client library, something similar to WebGate or SSO Agent. And then there is an access gate, which is delivered as a patch for on top of EBS. And there is no separate license for access gate. Anyone who's having a valid EBS license, can download the access gate and utilize it. So let's talk about the flow, the login flow. When a user enters EBS with SSO, how does the whole login flow work? So as you see here, the user is hitting EBS URL, and EBS URL, reaches the EBS application server, and the application server quickly checks the SSO related profiles in the database and to see if the system is SSO enabled. If the system is SSO enabled, it would quickly send the user to that EAZ URL, which is protected by SSO agent, and be it a WebGate or SSO Gen agent. The WebGate / SSO agent would then redirect the user to the actual SSO form or the login process. It could be Azure AD, it could be Okta, it could be basic LDAP authentication, or it could be Kerberos. Whatever that authentication is at the SSO server performs that authentication and sends the user back to the EAZ URL with all the responses, the cookies, the tokens, and the signatures. And then the WebGate / SSO client is the one which would verify the cookies submitted or the responses submitted are still valid, and if the session is still valid, if the user is valid, it's more like a 360 degrees verification. It would not just go by the session cookie submitted in the browser. There could be cookies which are stolen, and that's why we do 360 degrees verification, unlike other SSO vendors. And once the validation is complete, and then the request is sent back to EBS access gate. EBS access gate reads the responses coming from SSO, and then it goes back to EBS and creates the session, and then redirects the user to the requested URL, by default the EBS homepage. So this is the standard flow, no matter what kind of SSO you use. It could be Oracle Access Manager, or it could be SSO Gen. The flow is pretty much the same, and we'll talk about different SSO integrations later on. But this is how basic EBS SSO works. And there are other, some uncertified, or there are other integrations which do not follow this kind of process, such as IDCS asserter, which is not an EBS standard access gate, but we're going to talk about that in a bit. Now that we know how SSO works for EBS, now let's see, what are the traditional options or traditional SSO solutions for EBS. Oracle has got an out-of-the-box SSO for OP12 and 10GAS. It's the 10GAS SSO is the homegrown, built internally by Oracle, and it was the legacy SSO solution for most of the Oracle products, right from 9AS and 10GAS and even 11G today for some applications. It's primarily built to support Oracle products, and it's based on mod OSSO library, which is going to be in the web server. And the nature of the mod OSSO is that it just talks to SSO server, in a native format that only supports Oracle primarily, and then it's got a lot of backend dependencies and all that. So, and then there's no way to integrate with other applications because there's no way to set the responses or the cookies as required. So it was primarily built for Oracle products, and most of the Oracle products running on IaaS and 10GAS were primarily using mod OSSO. And then there's a new component called Oblix and Core ID. Oblix is the company which designed this Oracle Access Manager, what we call. Oracle acquired Oblix and Core ID and rebranded the Oblix SSO into Oracle Access Manager. And it comes with a bunch of web gates. These web gates can protect or can integrate with other web servers, unlike mod OSSO. And also it would let you set it has features such as setting the cookies and response, the header responses, and that allows the OEM to be more wide open to other applications, unlike mod OSSO. And that's how we got started. And for EBS, there was another requirement. It's not just OAM. You gotta have OID because there are some dependencies on OID. You gotta have both OAM and OID license if you're running EBS. These are the traditional solutions in the EBS space, and EBS versions such as 12.2 does not work with 10GAS anymore. The suggested path is to go to OAM or any newer solutions. But if you're running 11i and 12.1, the mod OSSO is still was an option, but it's not supported anymore. This is supported by Oracle for almost a decade now, almost 10 years now. Now that we talked about legacy / traditional solutions, let's talk about the NextGen solutions. So as the SSO space evolves today, there are a lot of new entrants in the SSO space, such as Azure, Okta, PingFederate, Siteminder. Siteminder has been a legacy SSO solution, but it continued to evolve, and we do have more demand or greater demand today about multi-factor authentication, and having multiple forests and multiple domains in a AD topology is very common today. So the SSO requirements have been increasing drastically, and there are too many types of users, including vendors. So companies such as Okta, or the Cloud SSO component or Cloud SSO solutions, which do offer SSO for mostly cloud applications and then on-prem applications lately, but they don't have integrations for they don't have all the integrations for legacy applications. So we do have a lot of requirements in the market today about Okta and Azure AD authentications. We're going to talk about that in a bit, but the newer SSO solutions for EBS are the SSO Gen, which works with EBS with no OID and OAM implementations, and you don't need to procure any of those licenses. And this is an Oracle validated integration, and it's built on the next-gen technologies with all the HADR built, and the whole integration is quite simplified compared to OAM integration. And we try to avoid all the pain points right in the beginning. And then this is a cost-effective solution compared to the legacy SSO solutions. And then there's a new entrant, which is Oracle EBS by Oracle, another cloud SSO component. Oracle recommends IDCS for the newer implementations. IDCS have got a few capabilities where it can act as a complete SSO, but you need the users and passwords in Oracle Cloud, basically syncing up the whole LDAP/Active Directory into their cloud, and then use it as a authentication services in Oracle Cloud. The other option is SSO Gateway, meaning it can work with the on-prem authentication such as SAML IDP, Azure, or even any authentication which is SAML capable. And users still need to be synced up to the cloud, unlike what we do with the SSO Gen. We don't sync up any users into the cloud. And the other difference is that it doesn't have a web server plugin. A web server plugin similar to Siteminder web agent or SSL Gen agent is not present in the web server. Rather, it's a Java application. But most of the applications which are going through the web servers, they don't have a web server plugin to talk to IDCS basically. And coming to EBS, the standard EBS access gate is not used in IDCS, and there's another component called Asserter, which is yet to be certified by Oracle EBS teams. But we use the standard EBS access gate, which is certified by EBS development team, and the SSO Gen integration has been looked into and has been validated by Oracle EBS teams, and it's certified to be a valid SSO integration for EBS. So with this, we don't have to buy the traditional OID and OEM licenses for EBS SSO, and it opens up a lot of options, including SAML options, such as Okta, Azure, Ping, Shibboleth, and also OpenID client-based authentication, Siteminder client-based authentications, IBM Tivoli based authentication, and pretty much any other SSO protocol out there. So I'm going to perform a live SSO integration on one of the EBS system, and then show you guys how to perform SSO for an Oracle EBS environment. And here I'm using 12.2. So this is not a SSO enabled right now. I'm going to be showing that. And so this is a 12.2 EBS. So this is before enabling SSO. I'm logging in with the EBS username and EBS password. So once you log into EBS, it's pretty much same as the functionality is same as before. So let me quickly start the integration process. So here I'm connected to an EBS environment, which is R12.2. There are two high-level steps in the whole process. One is deploying the EBS access gate. Another is registering OHS with SSO. So we'll start with the deployment of the access gate. But if you guys haven't seen the login screen, I can quickly show you the login before SSO. I think there was some technical issue with the screen share before. So let me show you the login process again. So here is the login process for EBS. And we get into the EBS application and do the rest of the forms launching and all that. Now let me quickly share the other screen with the EBS integration process. So, as I said, the first step is to deploy the access gate, and so to deploy the access gate, we do provide simplified tools for the EBS DBA team to integrate SSO with. So whether we use Okta Authentication or Azure or Ping or Siteminder, the backend process is pretty much the same. The first step is to run the deploy AZ, which deploys the access gate, similar to the AND script that we used to run in OEM space. And as I mentioned, these tools are, designed for simplicity, and all these tools can be automated during the clone and post-upgrade process. So here, the script asks for an endpoint, which is a customer endpoint. So login.ssogen.com is our internal URL, but every customer would have a different endpoint themselves, which is solely designed for that customer based on the use case. And so you would be having that endpoint, the DBA team would be having that endpoint with them to run the script. That's the only input you would need from SSO Gen. And then it deploys the access gate. And then the second step is to run the registration script. So what we did right now is deploying the access gate, also, the file fnd-auth.war into the WebLogic. Now we are running the registration process, which registers the OHS with SSO server, similar to the WebGate registration in the past, but it's a lot simplified NextGen kind of solution. So again, you're gonna input the SSO endpoint for your customer or for your company, and run the script, and it's gonna register EBS environment with the SSO, the whole registration should not take more than a couple of minutes. I would say 2 to 3 minutes for the deployment of the access gate, and another 10 seconds or so for 10 seconds or so for registration. So we're looking at less than 3 minutes integration for EBS, and all this could be automated, like I said, during the cloning process or post upgrades and all that. So once we're done with both the steps, deploying the access gate and registering with SSO, the next step is to restart the services. Unfortunately, EBS takes a few minutes in 12.2 to bounce the services up. I'll try to cover a few slides, but let me try to start the process too. So the deploy AZ, which is a standard script from Oracle, we simplified it a bit, but you could also do it, in Oracle standard way too. The SSO reg process is a custom process, which is with SSO Gen. So the deploy AZ basically deploys the WAR file and then brings down the OAA server. We need to bring up the server once the deployment is complete. And I'm bringing up and then we're gonna bounce OAA core as well as OHS. Ideally, I would bounce all the services on EBS because we're talking about, we're trying to save time here, and EBS takes a few minutes to, restart. So we are just focusing on OAA core and OHS for now, and we should be able to see SSO login screens and the whole SSO login process. So this would take a few minutes. As I said, I could go back to the slides and cover 1 or 2 slides while this is running. I'm also restarting the OAA core. So once we deploy the access gate and register OHS with SSO, there are 2 URLs to test. One is a SSO login URL. The default URL, if you go to the port, the default URL would take you to apps login, OAA HTML apps login, which is a SSO URL. And then there is a backdoor / local login URL for users such as sysadmin interface. Any functional user not in your AD or not in your SSO directory would still use the backdoor URL to log into the system and to perform any admin related activities. For example, you'd like to disable SSO or delete SSO, you need some kind of backend access to get into the system to change things, to change as profile options and creating new users or changing the user IDs and all that. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the access gate deployments. Now that we have seen the access gate deployment in 12.2, when it comes to 11i and 12, the access gate is going to be running on a separate WebLogic server. And the Oracle document recommends that we need to create a WebLogic domain for each and every EBS environment, which is a bit of overhead when it comes to the resources and the DBA time. We don't want to deploy as many WebLogic domains as EBS environments are. we would try to segregate, prod and non-prod into two different WebLogic domains. That's what, that simplifies the integration and management of the services and admin tasks. So you would have one prod WebLogic domain for the production, and you would have one non-prod WebLogic domain for non-production environments. You could have, dev, EAT, and test. All these can talk to the same non-prod, access gate domain. So though you do have only one WebLogic server or WebLogic domain, you would still have to deploy fnd auth.var, which is access gate for each and every application, because it's an application specific functionality. It's got a backend database connection as well, which is the data source. So you could deploy this fnd auth.var multiple times for each EBS environment, and the requirement for that is you don't want to say the deployment name, the application name, as access gate. You would rather say that the deployment name as the EBS SID, and use that a context root option. By default, it would enable URL such as EBS auth underscore something, or if you use access gate, it's going to be /access gate. But the moment you specify a SID in deployment name on the context root, you can specify the path where the application is going to be deployed. That way you can have multiple EBS environments using the same WebLogic domain, and then you still have only one WebLogic domain, WebLogic server, but you're having multiple EBS access gates in the same domain. The other requirement for this to happen is, the OHS, or the web gate in OEM language, or SSO agent in SSO Gen space, should protect all the root level, so that it protects all the EBS environments, and you shouldn't just protect at the SID level. If you do at the SID level or the EBS environment level, you would have to do multiple protection rules. We typically protect the root, so that all the environments within the space are SSO enabled, and you could deploy any new application, but you don't have to make changes to the SSO protection rules. So it's pretty much one-time change for OHS, and you keep deploying multiple access gates, and that way you don't have to spin up more servers and more WebLogic domains, and it simplifies the whole administration part of the access gate. And then every time every time the EBS is cloned, you would bring up the new DBC file and put in the DBC file and update plan.xml for the new server ID, and restart the access gate. You don't have to redeploy it, but the standard process is to deploy the access gate every time the EBS is cloned. That's perfectly fine, just that it takes few more steps. And our access gate deployment is greatly simplified, and it could be in your cloning script, and you don't have to deploy the access gate separately. Now let's talk about undeploying an access gate. So there is no standard script to undeploy it. Typically, some of the upgrade processes or ATZ level patching would recommend you to remove SSO before doing these big changes in the system. Or if you are migrating from one host to another host with a different operating system, For example, you're moving from OEL5 to OEL6, it'd be the clone process or a migration process. You wouldn't want to have those libraries. The recommendation is to disable SSO before the upgrade/migrations, and then complete the migration process, and then re-enable SSO. That way, it brings in the libraries that are needed for the newer operating system. So, undeploying and redeploying access gate has been a tedious process, and there is an option to deploy redeploy access gate without having to undeploy the access gate. So for these scenarios that we talked about, even after the clone, you don't have to undeploy it. You could just do force database data source true and force deployment true. It's going to override the current access gate that's already there. But if you were to undeploy it, we do have, our script does have undeploy as the option, which would basically remove the data source and the deployment. You could also go to WebLogic console and do the same. So that's about deploying the access gate. Let me quickly get into. So there is a little bit of tuning required for access gate depending on the situation. So the two big things when it comes to tuning is the JVM heap, and another is JDBC connections. By default, it comes with it comes with a connection such as 15, which is not good enough for EBS. So you try to match the JDBC pool sizes, matching EBS, DBC, or EBS data sources. The initial recommendation for the most customers would be 1500 max connections, and initial connections such as 5, and then to keep the JVM at least 4 gig for production environments, and it can go lower on non-prod. Again, it depends on the usage and number of users and number of logins in the system. So let me quickly see where this if the restart is complete, and we could quickly log in and test the login process. So let me share the other screen, which is talking about. So here we're gonna test the login process. So I go to EBS URL. Now it takes me to my our SSO login screen, and I input my username and password. And this is a service where we have MFA enabled. This is our live environment, and then I'm going to get the token from my phone, or we do have a plugin for non-smartphone users. We do have applications on the MFA app on Android and iOS, but if you happen to have users with no smartphones, there is a browser plugin to get the token and then get into the system basically. So it's as simple as that. It's a deploy AZ and register a reg command that would enable SSO on the EBS side, and then complete the whole SSO process, be it a Ping or Siteminder or Azure or Okta. It's pretty much the same process. So that's about the SSO login process. We also have one more portal called SSO Portal. It simplifies launching of the apps for end users. They don't have to remember multiple URLs and multiple applications. They can launch all the applications from the same system, from the same portal page. You log in once and access all these applications with a click away. It simplifies SSO even further because you don't have to log in multiple times. Though it's SSO login, logging in multiple times during the day, is not good, especially when you have too many applications to work with. And then once you log into SSO portal, you launch all these applications, and they are available. They're accessible, with one click. So they're all one click away, and for you to launch the application. As you see, I clicked on the EBS, and I was able to launch EBS without having to log in. So that's about SSO portal. And if you are having another SSO portal, such as SharePoint or another custom solution, you could rather add EBS and these Oracle products to that portal. And if you don't happen to have another portal, such as Azure Gallery or Okta, you could use SSO Gen, and it's a complimentary service. You don't have to use it. If you don't use it, you go to EBS URL and you get authenticated by SSO and land in EBS. But this comes handy when you are out of the office and you need to get into these applications to quickly approve or to quickly do something. Imagine that you're out of the office and you're on road or in a hotel lobby and you need to go to the EBS. This comes handy because you don't have to remember all the EBS URLs. You may not have your corporate laptop with you. You just go to the SSO portal, which is different for every customer. And you would only see your applications up here, and you would not see anything else. And end user can add and remove applications as they need. And another good use case is, in big companies, when you have too many users, the problems with the URLs, where, you need to change the URL, and, changing the URL is a big challenge in bigger environment because, people have got a lot of browser favorites and bookmarks, and then they launch URLs from the emails. A portal like this would enable the admin to change the URL of this app at once, and then that's going to be reflected to all the other users right away. They don't have to, change their bookmarks and so on and so forth. So that simplifies the whole administration aspect as well. So let me go back to other use cases, other integrations with SSO, and we're going to talk about. So the other use case that I want to talk about is, we do have about 12 integrations that we wanted to talk about, but I'll simplify. I'll show some live use case for a couple of scenarios. Our top three, we try to pick top three SSO scenarios in the market or SSO trends in the market. The first and foremost is Azure. Since O365 has been a huge success in the market, we see more and more customers using free SSO coming out of Azure AD, and we don't have to use any more SSO. We don't have to pay another vendor for SSO, and Azure AD comes out of the box for Azure/O365 customers. We see more and more applications are getting enabled on Azure right now, and then it's a natural extension or requirement to have Azure Authentication for EBS as well. So this is one of the use case, from one of our customers. So the user goes to EBS again, and then they get redirected to the Azure AD Authentication. User submits credentials if there's a login form. But if the user is coming from internal network and there is no login process, there are no credentials because it identifies the network. It identifies the network login, same as a Kerberos authentication. And when a user comes from outside the network or external network, the user is prompted to have a login form where he would submit the username and password, and then optionally, a few customers have MFA when a user comes from DMZ or external network. So that's a very popular use case right now. And then we want to talk about the next popular use case, which is Okta SSO or Okta Cloud SSO. And since Okta has been, growing pretty rapidly, medium and bigger corporations are looking at Okta for some of the cloud SSO, and they want to enable the same Okta authentication for EBS, and then we act as a gateway between Okta and EBS, and the whole integration is pretty much the same that you see on an EBS side. We just talk to Okta, on a different protocol, basically. So here is the use case where user uses Okta authentication. There are two ways to launch EBS. The first one is going direct to the user, the user URL or EBS URL. It could be a bookmark. It could be a URL from a workflow notification or a work list or anything, any deep URL, which would take you to the menu item directly. Would work fine. I just need to go to the URL, and then you get challenged by Okta. And user is going to be submitting credentials to Okta, and Okta performs the authentication. Okta performs the authentication. Once you land in EBS, the functionality is pretty much the same as before. So there's no change in the functionality. The other entry point for Okta is launching the URL from Okta portal, where you would see hundreds or thousands of other applications. You would see EBS also as one of those applications. So you don't have to always start from EBS. You go to Okta, which is the default homepage for most of the people, and then like you launch other applications, you would launch Okta, you launch EBS as well from Okta, and you don't have to sign in again, and it simplifies the whole access to end users. And it's the same case for Azure. Azure has got a similar option called Azure App Gallery, where you can add EBS URL and icon there, and people just log in there and then launch EBS from Azure App Gallery. So here is another, excuse me. Here is another use case from one of our customers. It's about PingFederate. It's a SAML solution they use with AD. They don't have Siteminder, but we extended PingFederate's authentication into EBS. Similar to the previous screens, user goes to the EBS URL, you get authenticated by ping, and then land in EBS, and pretty much everything is same once you land in the EBS. So, and we do have other use cases such as Siteminder use case, Siteminder and Tivoli. A big telecom company out of London uses SSO Gen with the Siteminder, where they don't have any services such as ping. So we enable Siteminder authentication for EBS and make it seamless for the end users. Ping does support some kind of EBS SSO directly, but they would, you would still need OID with the solution. You would still need a OID license to use solutions such as Ping. But with SSO Gen, we don't need OID and OEM licenses. So here are all the integrations we're talking about. Like I said, I try to showcase the first 3 use cases in the demo, but there are multiple options with SSO Gen. It could be LDAP authentication, it could be AD authentication, it could be Kerberos, and also authentication such as SAML, Ping, Shibboleth, OneLogin, Okta, or OpenID client-based authentication. OpenID is on the rise again. In the future, OpenID would be much more prevalent because open source. A lot of customers use OpenID as the enterprise SSO. But even if you use OpenID, we need to extend that to EBS, and we work as an OpenID client to the OpenID provider and bring that SSO to EBS. Not only that, we are compatible with Duo and RSA multi-factor options. And we do have our own multi-factor app, which is on smartphone. But if you happen to be a Duo user, we do support all the tokens from Duo tokens, both physical and smartphone apps. And if you don't have any SSO, you just have LDAP servers or AD, we can work with that. And if you have some SSO, we can work with that. So we pretty much cover the agent-based authentication, which is a web server plugin, and the SAML-based authentication, which is IDP authentication. And again, OAuth-based authentication and OpenID client connections. And not just that, proprietary solutions such as Siteminder Web Agent and Tivoli Web Seal. We do cover SSO pretty much with any other web server. So that way, we don't have any gaps in terms of integrations. No matter what kind of SSO you have, the enterprise level, we can extend that to EBS and complete all the authentication process. It not only brings in SSO for EBS, but also seamless. If you order to access EBS link from other SSO portal or SSO site, you don't have to log in again, and vice versa. So here is the SSO portal I quickly talked about. As I've shown you, every customer would have a customer portal with all their applications listed. End user would customize this page to have only the interested applications for him or her. All it takes is one login here, and you keep accessing all these applications, for the whole day without having to log in multiple times. It could be on-prem applications, it could be in the cloud applications, or it could be another application which is not even protected by SSO Gen. So we do have all these capabilities to talk to different application servers, and all you need to do, to launch an application or to log into another application is click on the button. All these applications are a click away. And the key takeaways from this webinar is that we wanted to show how simple it is to integrate SSO with EBS, and we wanted to talk about all the 12 options. Though we showcased one real demo of LDAP authentication with multi-factor, and then we talked about Azure authentication, and we also demonstrated Okta authentication and PingFederate authentication as well. So there are quite a few options right now, unlike in the past, to enable SSO for EBS. And it's a lot simpler now. It's very cost effective, and it's not per user based kind of licensing we're talking about. And the solutions are a lot better now, and the SSO has evolved. And we can bring all these benefits to the EBS users as well. So EBS users, don't have to remember those Oracle passwords anymore. So And coming back to SSO Gen, I just want to talk a little bit about it. We do have a pre-proof of concept, pre-POC for 30 days. The POC enables the customer to test SSO Gen in their live environment, meaning some development environment with their live SSO use case, and taking the solution to all the key stakeholders and EBS management for them to get a feel and for them to experience the solution. And we don't have any obligations with our POCs. So if you're not happy, then that's fine. And it gives you a great opportunity to explore how the solution works in your environment, and then get it tested out with the real user population. And also, we do have a free trial access where we do have a dummy SSO environment with a dummy username and dummy password, and you can integrate that with your EBS. The only difference between the trial access or the POC environment is that POC works with your on-prem or your SSO, company SSO, and the trial access works with the demo username and demo password. But you would for you to really test the whole integration process, you would need access to EBS, be it your lab environment or anything else. You would need some kind of EBS environment to test the integration with. But the free trial doesn't talk to your company SSO, and you can still test some functionality of SSO portal. But it's not for enterprises. It's more like for people to explore SSO options and learn more about how SSO works. But we do recommend POC for all our customers before they get to make any decisions. So with that said, I'll hand it over to. I'll take a few questions from the chat and try to answer some of them and hand it over to Nick. But let me quickly take a few questions on here. Please let us know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer. If not, we'll get back to you or the email or so. But let me pick a couple of. And yeah, I think someone was talking about PingFederate integration for 12.1.3. I've already shown that use case, the AJ Gallagher use case with the PingFederate. And then we have another user talking about OID and OEM. Yeah, that's right, Manish. You don't need OID and OEM solutions with SSO Gen. And as you've seen the whole integration, we're talking about 3-minute integration with EBS. And this could be automated as a part of your clone process and all that. And our support is 24/7 support, both from India and United States. And support is all included. And you don't have to solve your SSO problems yourself. You have a problem with SSO, we'll be having a quick call like this and share the screen and try to fix your problems right away. We are known for better service in the market, and we have many happy customers, and we'd be happy to provide some references. We do have, most of our customers are Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 customers, where SSO is important, and SSO is important, and then the user experience is important. And another user is asking about if Sunday itchy, right? So yeah, the solution is certified by Oracle, as I've shown in the previous screen. This is an Oracle validated integration, and Oracle certified it. And then there's one more question from Gene. Is SSO Gen only for web applications? Well, that's a good question. Yeah, this is a web SSO solution. Any web application that's running a web server, SSO Gen can be used. Recently, we started exploring the auth options for mobile applications as well. Mobile SSO is also popular these days. When you have an enterprise application and end user launches the application, they can go through SSO login screen. They can go through the SSO login process and then finish up the integration. So mobile SSO is another big thing. But if you have traditional applications which are client server based, if you have a client server based applications, which could authenticate with LDAP, and you could rather do LDAP. It's not a SSO, but this is mostly for web SSO, for all the web applications and then mobile applications. And we do have these apps, apps such as smartphone app, and the SSO portal that I've shown you is also available as an app. When you're out of the office and you open up the app and launch these applications. And there are more questions about the licensing and the product costs and all that. So we'll get back to you on the licensing model. Our licensing is something tailored for each and every situation. So you could be a customer with 500 users, or it could be another big company with 500,000 users in EBS. We wanted to make SSO Gen affordable to both the companies. So it's a one low flat fee per environment for production, and one for non-prod, which is like almost 1/5 of production. But that low flat fee is again tailored based on your situation. We don't want you to pay as much as the other customers with 10x more users in EBS pay. So the solution should be tailored and affordable for all the sizes of businesses. So we have one more question from Zeph. Is a mobile web application or MSCA handled? So Zeph, I know where you're coming from. So the short answer is that the web SSO itself is SSO compatible with all the products, and there are these applications, telnet kind of applications, which are hard-coded to have authentication against a FND user table. And these are kind of exceptions from the product itself. If you go to Oracle documents, and you would see these mobile web applications or MSCA clients, telnet-based clients has an exception. However, if you were to have a solution like this, the best thing we would do is, we would try to have SSO password in EBS itself, either through IDM or, through other means. At the end of the day, these telnet applications need password in FND user table. If you don't have it in FND user table, it has to be in OID and synced up to FND user table. And then, for EBS customers, there are some basic versions of OID which is available. We could try to sync up the password for you guys which are using telnet, but all these telnet applications are not web-based. They don't go to web browser. They just collect the password from the user, and then they're going to post that password back into EBS system, and it's up to EBS on how to validate it. Like I said, in IDM case, having those passwords in the FND user table would be the best case scenario, because you're not going elsewhere, or we could have some flavor of OID for this kind of client-based authentications. Again, these are the exceptions to SSO processes, and Oracle documented these telnet-based applications. Those are the handheld devices which are used by the floor workers. These are SSO exceptions, and they're still based on password, and that password is going to be somewhere. But there are workarounds for these situations there. Now, another question from Vishnu is that, does the deployment script also install OID and OEM? No, we are not talking about OID and OEM at all. This is completely different from OID and OEM. So this is a lightweight solution compared to OID and OEM, which is built on NextGen technologies, and we try to avoid all the pain points. We're talking about 30 minutes to 1 hour integration process in OID and OEM today. As I've shown you, the whole integration in real time is about 2 to 3 minutes. And we don't have those single thread issues with the OEM registration processes, and we don't have all those runtime issues with those legacy SSO solutions. This is truly NextGen, and it comes with all the HA and DR. And we do promise 4 nines of availability. And if you can meet that 4 nines of availability, we do the refunds back to the customer and all that. So we are, big customers. Fortune 100 companies are using SSO Gen in production for almost 3 years now. All right. With that said, we'll move on. And if you guys have any other questions, please let us know, and we'll try to answer some of those questions over the email. Our email is info@SSOGen, and questions such as licensing or the costing for your EBS and all that could be answered, and we are very responsive when it comes to these inquiries. So do let us know if any questions are unanswered up here in the email, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to close on a few notes just to discuss with you. As Raj mentioned, if we were not able to answer all of your questions, we can take it offline and just send us an email at info@ssogen.com. We're also pleased to offer all of our webinar attendees a SSO use case review, so we can set up a individual time slot for that. We will make our webinar available for replay for any of you who would like to share it with any associates or go back and look at anything in particular. We will send you a replay link. And should you have any feedback or would like to suggest any future webinar topics, please contact us again at info@ssogen.com. We will have additional webinars. You can subscribe to that. We want to thank you very much for joining us today. We hope that we were able to shed some light on SSO trends and integrations. We've got some additional links and contact information for you that will be made available. And we look forward to hearing from you and being in touch in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for joining, and we hope to be in touch, and then we hope to be a partner with you guys in terms of support and advisory. And we do have a couple of other webinars coming on: PeopleSoft, JDE, SAP, and we have a couple of more webinars coming up on EBS. And please do let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for joining again.